Welcome to the Rain or Shine PRF Podcast, where we talk about all things PRF. My name is Ross Bronson. I'm the Ag Risk Consultant with Red Summit Advisors. And Red Summit Advisors is a rangeland and livestock insurance specializing company. And today I have with me Steve Red, founder of Red Summit Advisors. And I'm excited to sit down with you today, Steve, because it's always good to talk to you.
It's great to be here.
And kind of what we want today is for people to get to know you. So we really just want your story. So where does your story start?
Oh goodness, we won't go back that far. Everybody will know how old I am. But, I say on our stuff, I always say I'm a fifth generation rancher, and it's like, I thought about that a few times. I'm like, well, if we go back to Tennessee and North Carolina, add a few more generations in there, right? But I come from a family of ranchers here in the West, and long heritage of survival on the ground that's kind of bred into us, and I have made a home, made a life of this, and I mean that's really who I am at the core.
Yeah. And if any of you don't know, the country that Steve grew up in is certainly a survival country. So he knows how to make it work. So Steve, I guess let's start with kind of your exposure to PRF.
Yeah.
There's sort of a history there. How did that all play?
Well, it's so interesting, and I tend to forget, right, and think of just recent, but I heard about it years before I actually acted on it, and I assume that's pretty common for most people.
I imagine.
Right? Like, it's like, oh, that's interesting, and I actually heard like some stats about it from a very reputable person, and I thought, oh, I should look into that. And then I went about my business, being busy, and then a gentleman who's a good friend to this day cornered me at a trade show and showed it to me, and I thought, that's interesting. He must be full of baloney.
Right.
And he wasn't from our area, and so I thought, I bet it doesn't even apply here, whatever. Bless his heart, he came out and sat in a hotel for 2 days waiting for me. I mean, who wants to talk to a insurance salesman, right? Not me.
Yeah.
And I was weaning calves, and finally I like, man, this guy came all this way. I should give him time of day. And fast forward, to me it looked like a game changer, and therefore I was very skeptical, and therefore I dove in, 1,000 miles deep, and did my own research, and ended up signing up, and fast forward a year, and it had been a tough year for us, and we'd actually had a very friendly family division separation of the ranch, and gone out on my own, but still in the family place. And having PRF that year was the difference between, I wouldn't say bankruptcy, but a very difficult restructure probably with my bank, versus being able to say, here's my loan payment, move forward, live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, the difference between being in a tough spot for a few years and having a leg up. So that's when the light bulb went off for me, and I kind of couldn't believe it was as underutilized as it is.
Right.
Because I had a hard time even finding other people in our area that were utilizing it. Right? It sounded like snake oil, and people tend to stay away from that these days.
They do. Yeah, that's interesting. And so sounds like that kind of sparked something inside of you. Tell me how the process from there to Red Summit Advisors happened. Yeah,
that transition's interesting. I mean, the short version is the product itself was just, it's so solid, and it helped me and my family through a difficult time. And I got thinking, and I had this good or bad idea in the back of my mind that, like, I could share this with, like, I have a lot of neighbors that are like me years prior, heard it, but like assumed it was not for them. Right. Like, I think I could help them access this and use it in a way that benefits them. But I actually was just stewing that over and didn't hardly dare tell my wife that I was thinking about it. And she was in the kitchen, and I came in and I was going through our policy and had just explained how it helped in this situation with our bank. And she set down what she was doing and said, "Why aren't you doing that? You'd be so good helping people with that." I said, honey, I need you, I don't do this often, I need you to say that again.
Yeah.
And she said that again, and we kind of locked eyes, and it's like in that moment, Red Summit Advisors was born.
Yeah.
Obviously, not overnight, but we started down that track, and here we are now. I don't know how many millions of acres later.
A lot. We were discussing that before we started, and I mean, it's a lot of millions of acres that we cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been fun because I don't show up, and the agents that work for us, we don't show up as insurance guys, right? We do everything we can technologically and sophistication-wise to know everything, but from the get-go, I love sitting down with someone as their peer, as someone who uses PRF, and say, hey, here are all the ways this could work, and then you decide whether it works for you, versus like, hey, I think you should do this.
Right.
And that's really been at the core from the beginning. I actually think I'm a terrible salesman, right? And we try to hire terrible salesmen.
Yeah, we really just want to talk ranch with you. So
That's right. Right.
Well, I really like that because that's one of the things I always appreciated about Red Summit Advisors is where it came from, and how that has driven really the culture of the organization and how we do business. Because kind of like you were saying, I'd rather talk about your land and I'll do the numbers, but I really want to know where you run. Is there a cool river? And I want to talk ranch with you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I guess kind of lastly, long term, has it continued to be beneficial on your operations?
Oh, absolutely. It really, it would be a really a stretch to say PRF is the answer to everything, right? And you have PRF, you'll be happy, everything will be great, right? But I don't know of any tool in the toolbox that has come along the last 20 years that is as powerful as this for helping keep families on the ground. I just don't, right? And you can have all kinds of opinions about whether the USDA should be helping ranchers stay on the ground or not, right? I happen to think that's a really great use of their resources, right? But I actually love, you asked if it's been beneficial, absolutely, and continues to be. But part of what I love about it is that it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
This is not a stand in a soup line and like you get something for sure, right?
Yeah.
You as a customer, you're buying an insurance policy, and like we're in the middle of a really wet year right now.
Right.
And guess what? A lot of people will pay a premium. And in the previous several years, the checks flowed the other way, right? Yeah. And I actually love that. I probably shouldn't say this here, but like I tend to be quite right-leaning in my personal politics and just my opinion about things, right? And here I am sharing information about a government-subsidized program, right?
Right.
I actually love that the rancher has to take the risk of paying a premium. Yeah. And now we can look at it, and in many cases, that the risk of them having to pay, all of it or whatever, usually, I'm going to be careful because it depends on the individuals, but is really, really low, right? A lot of times. Right. But it's still there. It's still there.
There's skin in the game.
And that's actually what I love, that it's not just here, sign me up for this program. It's here is a product, you take a level of risk, and here's the upside. And it happens to be structured in a way that the upside's, very beneficial to a rancher if they're willing to take their portion of the risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really is about helping ranchers in their risk management. It's about in securing food security across the country.
Yeah.
So and that's really our goal. And so our invitation to you is to reach out to us and give us a call. We want to help your operation find the similar long-term stability and support from the PRF program that Steve has found in his operation, and that we've seen many others enjoy in their operations. So give us a call. We'll talk to you about your program or your policy potential on your property. The biggest thing I always say is call and get some numbers. You can always say no, but you ought to at least educate yourself about what's available to you. The deadline is December 1st, so let's get you some information and see what it can do for you.